Heartbreaker Chapter 1 The Forest of Silence. The red Alfa Romeo drove with a great speed over the freeway of the Dordogne of France. There were two girls inside. They seemed oddly similar, but that would be normal if you were to look at twins. Sophie sat in the driver's seat with her eyes fixed on the road. They had been driving for hours with only small stops in between, and she was getting tired. The girl next to her, which was her twin sister Helena, had a map on her lap. Navigation equipment would have been welcome at the moment, but this was an older car model that did not have that built-in such thing. So, a map it was. "Are you sure we're going the right way?" Sophie asked her sister. "Yes, I'm sure of it," Helena replied, a little irritated in response to the question. "Last year we went to Europe. You made me take the wrong exit on one of the highways, and we were delayed by an hour. Please, Helena, I want to get to the campsite before it gets dark," Sophie said back to Helena. He could hear in her voice that she was getting tired. "I have everything drawn out this time. It will be alright," she said. There was a little pause before Helena continued. "Let's stop at the gas station and let me take the steering wheel. Take some rest, Sophie. You've been driving for hours." Sophie nodded. On the boards on the side of the road, it was already visible that there was one ahead of them. Sophie started to count in her head. 2 kilometers, 1 kilometer, 500 meters. A little smile appeared on Sophia's face as she drove the car to the gas station. Both of the girls opened the door and switched places. Sophie plopped on her seat and let out a sigh of relief. Helena on the other side took this opportunity to DJ as she put her own USB stick in the small radio of the car. Pop music came on and she started to hum along with the music as she started the car and drove away. "Really, Helena? You know all of these people use autotune, right?" "I do not care. This sounds at least better than the screaming of your music," Helena said back teasing. "Screamo and grunting takes years of practice, and I have respect for those who can pull it off. Opera takes years of practice as well." Helena looked at Sophie, who could only react to that comment with a face of pure disgust. Helena started laughing as she turned her gaze back to the road. "I have no understanding of people who can listen to opera," said Sophie. "But you're right. You need a pair of trained vocal cords to sing that high," she continued with a sigh. "Well, neither do I. But I just love to see the face you make, sis," she continued laughing. "You little shit," the other replied. When evening fell, the two girls arrived at the camping. The car drove slowly over the path that led to the spot where they were going to put up their tent. Sophie looked at the window and could see most people having dinner and a few kids running around in their pajamas. When the Alfa Romeo came to a stop, the sisters looked at each other, smiling and sighed of relief. Finally, they had arrived. Helena took the keys out of the car and opened the door to leave. Sophie did the same and started stretching her arms and legs when she finally stood outside. "I am going up front to tell the owners of the campsite that we have arrived. Can you start unpacking some of the stuff, Sophie? I'll come back as fast as I can to help you set up the tent." Sophie nodded and looked how her sister darted away. She then walked to the back of the car and started loading out the bags and the tent. It was a small tent, but big enough for both of them. When Sophie had laid out everything on the grass, a woman walked up to her. "Hey juffie, ben je nieuw?" Sophie turned around and looked at the woman and then pointed at herself. "Ja, jij, wie anders?" Sophie straightened her back to look the woman in the eyes. She was a little taller than her, had a pixie haircut, and she seemed very strict. "I'm sorry, but I do not understand what you say. Do you perhaps speak English?" Sophie replied to her. So? You're the first person on this campsite that is not Dutch. And I asked if you were new here. But more importantly, where are you from? She said with full excitement in her voice. "I'm from Canada." "Canada? But that's so far away! What are you doing all the way here in France?" "Oh, my name is Femke, nice to meet you." She stretched out her arm over to Sophie. "My name is Sophie. I'm here with my twin sister Helena for work. Both of us work as foresters, and we were sent here to take a look at the forest near the camping," Sophie said as she shook her hand. Femke looked at Sophie with a slight unnerved face. "It's because the birds have stopped singing, right?" Sophie stared back at the woman, not really knowing how to respond. "Yes, how do you know?" A man came around the corner of the caravan next to them. He seemed a bit frail and sweat was dripping off his face. "We just came back from the mountain." The man pointed at the small mountain across the camping while walking over. "I missed most of the conversation, but this is about the animals, right?" Sophie looked him in the eyes and said, "Yes, I'm here with my sister to find out why the animal life around this spot is growing thinner." He nodded and adjusted his glasses. Helena then came walking back with a smile on her face. "I see that you've made some friends." She stepped towards the couple and reached out her hand. "Helena, I'm a twin." Femke took a hold of her hand and shook it violently. "Nice to meet you. I'm Femke and this is my husband Willem. Can we help set up your tent?" Helena, her eyes lit up. "That would be amazing. We have driven on the road for hours and we are wrecked." She laughed. The four of them set up the small tent. It was all set up within a blink of an eye. So after that was done, the two sisters took a stroll to the front of the camping to grab a bite. "So the owners of the camping are Dutch as well?" Sophie asked. "Yup," Helena replied. The food the camping served was nothing fancy. The menu gave you two choices: pizza with whatever topping you pleased, or fries with snacks. The two looked at each other and then back at the menu. "Snacks?" Helena asked. The woman smiled at her and replied, "It is just how we call it. All of the snacks are fried food. You can have a frikandel or a croquettes, which are sort of sausages. But you can have chicken nuggets as well if you like that better." Helena raised a brow with the names. Both sisters could conclude that the options they were given were Dutch food. Sophie made eye contact with Helena. "We can try. If both of us take one of these sausages, we can split them in half and we can have a taste of both." Helena nodded. Seemed like a smart idea, and if it was disgusting in the end, she could still get herself some chicken nuggets. The woman walked to the back and the two were left almost alone in the small bar, along with a couple of parents with their kids who were running around with the ice cream still in their hands. Two men walked in, and the atmosphere suddenly became colder all of a sudden. They sat next to the two girls, the buffest sitting next to Sophie. "2 beer, please," the smaller one yelled. Then the other spoke up. "I'm telling you, there's something wrong with those woods. We've been walking around there for days and we found nothing." The other one gave a smirk. You know the stories that have been going around, right?" A fist was pounded on the bar and Sophie could see Helena shiver. Then she looked around and saw that the parents who were sitting at the tables looked concerned at the two men. She wasn't planning on letting the kids get scared from ghost stories, but it could come in handy if they could tell more about the situation of the forest. "Excuse me, would you two gentlemen mind to tell me these stories?" The guy that sat next to her turned around in his chair and gave her a curious look. Oh, but I can give you all the information you like. But tell me, are you single? Sophie gave the man a stern look without response. The other man moved his chair until the three of them sat in a triangle-like format. I am sorry about my friend over here, but you wanted to hear a story about the thing in the woods? She nodded in response. So, my friend and I have been going from town to town, campsite to campsite. Each has their own theory of what is going on. My friend Daniel here and I were just here to hunt rabbits, but investigating the forest for something paranormal has become even more interesting. Sophie got a bit upset about the hunting part, but it's not like she never hunted a rabbit or a deer. In a way, keeping the forest in balance was important as well, just as much as bringing lost children back to their parents. Do you believe in the paranormal, like ghosts? He laughed at that comment. Not that much, but the stories are sure interesting. He paused for a moment. So, story goes that there was a summoning circle found in the hearts of the woods. Strange writings on the ground, candles, blood, the whole shit show. We do not know who did it, or what was summoned. Some say it's a demon. Some say it is an evil spirit. But all are sure it took the form of a wolf. And that is what is killing all of the animals. Sophie gave the man a strange look. How come you so sure? The man looked at his friend Daniel and started chuckling. We heard it howl, sweetheart, he said as his friend started making howling noises. The woman behind the bar came back with 2 trays filled with fries and weird-looking sausages. Also, don't eat those, they're made of leftovers. Helena gave the 2 a disgusting look and turned her gaze back at the food. From what? She said a bit in a panic. You know, the meat they don't use, like organs and stuff. Like eyes from cows. Helena started to look a bit pale. Whatever the Dutch ate, she wanted none of it. Helena, are you okay? Sophie asked as her sister started to look as pale as a ghost. I think I need to puke. And that was how the evening ended. Helena puking at the side of a tree, and Sophie stroking her back as she watched the 2 men leave. If looks could kill, those 2 would have died within a second. The next day, everything started to go a little better. Sophie had packed her car with her equipment, and a bag filled with bottles of water, a first aid kit, a pocket knife, and more to help her in the woods. A part of her felt more like a scout, but looking at the airgun that laid in the trunk of the car, that idea was gone within a second. I really can't come along today, can I? Helena asked. If there's something in those woods, you won't be safe. I can handle myself, but you can take on a wolf. And see this from the bright side. Now you can stay here and add some drawings to your sketchbook. I have seen your flower studies. They are beautiful. Helena smiled at that compliment. Okay, I get it. Go on then, I stay here. Helena said goodbye to her sister, not knowing that this might be the last time the 2 would see each other. Sophie stepped in the red Alfa Romeo and then drove off. The car trip did not take long, but it might have been a little too long to go by foot. And every piece of energy she could save today would help. Because she knew that she would be walking through those woods for hours, not even knowing if she might find anything. Sophie stopped her car at the entrance of the forest. If what those men said is true, maybe she'd find traces of those spell circles. It hadn't rained in weeks, so it should be fine. She stepped out and grabbed an airgun out of the trunk. She put her license in her bag and walked down the path. The sun was high and the temperature was unbearable. How could someone stand a temperature like this? The deeper she got in the forest, she also started to notice the absence of wildlife. It was silent. Not a single bird sang their song. The only sound audible were the twigs snapping underneath Sophie her boots. After walking what felt like hours, Sophie reached a clearing. The wind blew through the trees. The leaves rustled and slowly fell to the ground. On the clearing lay Daniel, asleep? Sophie took a better grip of her air gun and made her way over to the man slowly. The man lay there motionless. She could swear that his chest didn't move an inch. She looked around her, trying to spot his friend somewhere in the bushes. Yet, she could not spot a single soul other than Daniel and herself. As she drew closer, she concluded why he had laid there so still. There were bite marks similar to that of a dog's on his throat. She knelt down to take a better look at the wound. The blood was still fresh. She stood back up and stepped back from the body. She had seen a lot of things in the forest. Half-eaten squirrels with their intestines spilled on the ground, trails of bloodied feathers. But this? Why in God's name did the creature only kill and not eat him? No, she thought to herself. Those two probably came here to hunt it down and it defended itself. At least the other one got away. A howl was heard from the other side of the clearing, and just behind the bushes, a pair of yellow glowing eyes, ogling at her. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for listening to tonight's narration. Heartbreaker has been a story that I want to put on paper for a long time, and also the first original character that I've ever created. Now, I let you all take a guess. Who ends up being the killer and who survives? Will it be Sophie or Helena? Before I go, I want to thank everyone, since this channel has reached 200 subscribers. Not only that, we're also almost at 300, meaning that I'm working on chapter 2 as we speak, called Sweet Revenge.